We're currently entering the earliest stages of the biggest change in marketing history.
You can rank #1 in Google, but still be completely invisible to ChatGPT. We've seen AI agents completely ignore large enterprise companies and choose no-name companies with very little organic traffic.
How you are positioned in the wide spectrum of the solutions out there is going to be how easily you are discovered.
Being mentioned by AI isn't enough. You need to be the recommendation.
I'm going to give you a complete practical AI SEO playbook that you can use to start getting your business recommended by AI tools like ChatGPT, Gemini, and Perplexity within the next 30 days. This playbook comes from hundreds of hours of research, testing what actually works in real businesses, and sitting down with the experts who are already helping brands win inside AI search. In this video, I'll show you what actually determines whether AI references your brand, how to structure your content and signals so AI trusts you, and how to do this without changing your entire website, rewriting everything, or gambling on risky tactics. By the end of this video, you'll have a system you can use to turn AI recommendations into a consistent source of new customers. But before we get into the playbook, there's one thing you need to understand first, because if you miss this part, none of the tactics will make sense. For the last 20 years, we've been taught to ask the wrong question. Not what problem someone's trying to solve, but what keyword we want to rank for. However, the latest research on AI search shows that before AI can recommend a business, it has to understand the exact moment a customer needs help. And if AI can't clearly tell when your business is the right choice in those situations, it will confidently recommend someone else instead. Let's break this into the exact things AI search looks for and how you can optimize for it all in the next 30 days. Week number 1. So, about that thing I just said you needed to understand first, to really wrap my head around this, I went to Andrew Holland, who's been studying how AI search actually works in the real world. And I asked him a very important question that has been on everyone's mind lately. If keywords are dead, how does AI decide which business is the right answer when someone asks for help?
A problem space. People come to search engines with problems. And that's largely a business's job to answer that problem and to be found. A business needs to be the solution to the problem and needs to present itself to the solution to the consumer's problem. So the problem space has 2 entry points. It's the consumer with their problem, and it's the business with their problem is to acquire more customers. Now, they meet at the middle in this problem space because the business is the best solution to the problem. And it's like a match. Think of it like a match. You want a match. You know, if for example, you're looking for a pest control company that specializes in the removal of crocodiles, what would happen is they would look for that and they would find a solution where somebody has created a page or it's in their website all about how they remove crocodiles, how they specialize in that field, and so forth and so forth. And they would match the 2 of them together. So we're very much gone from keywords now to problem spaces. And a problem space is best described as a business's positioning. How you are positioned in the wide spectrum of the solutions out there is going to be how easily you are discovered. And your positioning, your business position, your brand positioning is everything.
That may sound complicated, but it's not, really. Let's break it down. Before AI can recommend a local business, it needs to understand 3 things. What exact problems do people ask you to solve, when you're the right choice, and what you're known for in those moments. The answers to these questions make up your brand positioning or how you're positioned in the wide spectrum of similar businesses out there. But surprisingly, most local businesses never make this clear. They describe themselves as a family-owned Italian restaurant in Chicago or the best plumber in Phoenix. Great, so are 400 other businesses in your area. So before you do anything else, let's determine the exact moments and situations, or rather the problem spaces, when your business should be the match. If you need help brainstorming, finish this sentence 10, 20, 50 times. Someone should choose us, maybe when they need help late at night, or when they're near a specific location, when there's urgency or an emergency, or when there are constraints like budget or specialization. And often it's a combination of many factors all at once, like someone should choose us when they want a restaurant near the theater that's open after 9 p.m. and serves seafood. I've created a problem spaces template for you, so the hard part's already done. Grab it in the description box below, fill it out, and that'll become your starting point for AI search. Now comes the part most local businesses skip. Once a potential customer is in one of those moments and searching for a business solution, they start asking qualifying questions like they're interrogating an actual salesperson. With this, the important question for you now becomes, does AI actually understand your business well enough to accurately answer those follow-up questions? Let's ask Steve Toth, the CEO of Notebook Agency. But before we hear from Steve, quick favor, and I genuinely mean this. If you're getting value from this, a like or a comment helps us way more than you'd expect. Those signals tell YouTube this is actually useful, not just more noise, and it helps us reach people who are looking for exactly this kind of content. So thank you for supporting the channel, and let's keep going. If a business owner wants to know whether AI actually understands their business, what's the first thing they should do?
The important thing for a business owner to realize is like the common questions that you guys get asked on the phone, right? Or on a demo call or on a sales call. These are the same types of questions that people have been asking Google for years and now are asking LLMs, right? So the question is, have you searched an LLM the way, your ICP would have, right? A good starting point for any business is just to ask the LLM, like, hey, what do you know about me? And then kind of go from there with respect to deal breaker type of questions around pricing, around fit, around offering services, case studies, really interrogating the LLM to see how well you're being represented, and then what sources of information the LLM is using to tell that story about you is kind of the next logical step in terms of understanding, how to influence what it says about you. So you want to make sure that you've got, answers online that the LLM can draw from, that are, an accurate representation. We launched a bot called Deal Breaker Detector. And what that does is basically like you would put in your niche, and it would generate like a bunch of deal breaker type of questions that your ICP would ask. And then just like literally asking the LLM, like, how does my company satisfy these deal breakers? And then checking to see whether or not, it is actually something that you would be able to respond positively to. Would be a great first way to start with that.
That's the real shift. With one click, you can generate the kinds of questions people ask to qualify a business in your category. To make this as frictionless as possible, I've linked Steve's Deal Breaker Detector bot in the description below. Now you can take all those questions and add the ones you already hear on your sales calls or in your customer conversations and ask them directly to ChatGPT, Gemini, or Perplexity about your business. This helps you find out what AI is saying about your business in those moments. And watch for when AI sounds confident, and even when it fills in gaps like hallucinating information because those details don't exist online, or citing outdated information. And then check the sources for each answer to see where the information came from. That way you can actually see which website pages, reviews, and third-party sites are shaping how AI talks about you inside those pre-sale conversations. If you spot answers that are wrong, fuzzy, or outdated, it likely means AI is pulling from old pages, reviews, or listings that no longer reflect your business. You'll want to remove or update all those sources so the story AI tells actually matches who you are today, starting with the sources AI cites most often. This brings us to the final step of week 1, where we'll create a single source of truth AI can trust, which essentially gives AI everything there is to know about your business on a silver platter. Steve has a genius trick that I bet you and your competitors haven't even heard of.
If you go on our website, which is notebook.agency, and you scroll to the footer, there's a small link on the bottom right-hand corner called Hey AI, Learn About Us. And in that file, it's a markdown file that talks about our client portfolio, our services, our specialties. And if you ask ChatGPT, what do you know about Notebook Agency? It sources that file to create a lot of information. So it's a lot of what it knows about us, right? So having a file like that on your site where you've basically laid it all out in very clear, easy to understand markdown format for an LLM. It's a great way to kind of shortcut, putting your best foot forward. Here's our services. Here's our client portfolio. These are the different sectors that we work in. This is even like a patent that we own, et cetera, et cetera. There's a lot of really great information there that, we want the world to know about and that we want LLMs to know about. So that is essentially, I think, the shortest cut a way of influencing what AI could know about you.
In week 1, you've mapped out a strong list of buying situations, refined your brand positioning, compiled sales-grade answers to real questions potential buyers ask before choosing you, and now you can combine this all together into one AI-friendly truth page that becomes the reference AI can pull from when potential buyers ask questions. To make this easy, I've also linked a ready-to-use template in the description below. It already includes everything AI looks for when it's trying to understand and describe a business in a machine-readable format, so you're not guessing what to include. You can copy it, customize it, and publish your own AI info page on your website in just a few minutes. By the end of this first week, you should know when you want to be recommended, what questions AI is answering about you, and where it's getting those answers from. Week 2. However, we still haven't addressed the elephant in the room. Can AI accurately read and extract the existing content on your site, even though we know that AI doesn't read websites the same way humans do? Let's find out from AI search expert Chris Long. If AI doesn't read pages top to bottom, how should that change how we structure content?
AI engines, I think, is a fundamental kind of misconception where it's like a lot of people think that an AI engine is going to read your page the same way as Google. And they basically use different context windows, right? So an AI engine might read only a portion of your page, right? It basically can come in at random code lines and look at your page in these different kind of like windows or chunks. What means that you have to account for any potential section an AI might be hitting, you having a well-summarized answer for what that query is, right? We found that tables are over 2 times more common in AI engines than Google search. So that content in that really structured format really matters, right? Bullet points are good, and then heading, and then your traditional like heading paragraph structure, but like very defined, like concise heading structure, like the best small business accounting software of 2026 also tends to be formatted well for AI engines. Now, if an AI comes in and looks at an individual context window, maybe it just captures the bulleted list at the top of the page, maybe it captures the table at the bottom, but you're giving yourself multiple shots on net of structured content, no matter where the AI engine comes in and starts to actually analyze the page's content.
These insights mean you'll need to change how you structure everything on your website. So week 2 is about restructuring your existing pages into an AI-friendly format so AI can pull clean, accurate, and quote-worthy info without guessing or hallucinating. And I know that sounds like a lot of work, but don't panic. To make this super simple, I'm keeping the freebies going Oprah style, and I've added a sample AI-friendly page layout in the description below that you can use as a reference to start fixing your pages today. And on the more technical side of things, remember to double-check your robots.txt file, usually found by just typing /robots.txt at the end of your domain. AI search tools typically pull information from web indexes or use their own crawlers, so make sure you're not disabling OpenAI's GPT bot, Google's crawlers, and Microsoft's Bing bot. Now that you've nailed down the perfect page structure, let's start creating pages that AI will check when deciding whether to recommend a local business. Not every page on your website carries the same weight when AI considers this. So where should you start? What content do LLMs rely so heavily on when making recommendations?
One of the native strengths of LLMs is actually being able to compare you against other brands. Comparison content can be really powerful vessels for teaching the LLM about everything that you do. But what we also like to do in terms of our structures is get hyper specific about the types of things that we compare. Essentially, serving up the information for an LLM on a silver platter. For them to essentially retrieve. Because if you have a chat with an LLM, 9 times out of 10, it's going to say, do you want me to compare other services or comparable vendors, right? Because that's a strength that it has. So by creating that, very hyper specific comparison content, it's going to retrieve what it knows is relevant to the user because of what that user, even what it knows about the user without the user even having to say because of all the chat history, but also with what the user says is explicitly important to them. Understanding, your unique selling propositions, the things that choose customers to select you, and really highlighting those things in your content, comparison content, is a great way to persuade customers.
Comparison pages are a no-brainer since people are already comparing you to a few obvious alternatives, so you might as well control the narrative. Start with one comparison page for your core service, the one most buying decisions revolve around. Then ideally, over time, for every major service you provide, you want to create a simple, structured comparison between you and your top 3 to 5 alternatives or competitors. After comparison pages, you'll want to add a pricing page. Local buyers ask about the price early on in their buying journey, and so does AI. If you have some time, I also recommend creating a testimonials page. Reviews matter more than almost anything for local businesses. So gather your best reviews from Google, Facebook, Yelp, and anywhere customers already leave them and put them in one place in a structured LLM-friendly format. Vendasta's Reputation AI has a customizable review display widget that you can add to your website that will automatically pull in your top reviews and showcase them on your website. Check out the link in the description to check it out. Another crucial asset to add are case study pages that show real proof of results that AI can reference when explaining why someone should choose you. Then you'll want to add the pages that both humans and AI expect when they're vetting a local business. A concise FAQ page that answers as many deal-breaker questions as possible from the list of questions we identified in week 1. Once those pages exist, you can expand your content footprint with use case pages. Over the next few days, try to build 6 to 8 short pages, each focused on one authentic local buying situation. Next, I asked Andrew Holland a very practical question. When someone asks AI for a local recommendation, what specific details does AI actually need to see on a business's website to treat them as a good match?
It all depends what they call category entry points in marketing. These are triggers of buying situations that people find them in. So it makes sense in that case to have a page on your website for restaurants near XYZ theatre, and have a page on that website that talks about your dishes, and maybe also you have your dishes itself. If I was optimizing that local business, I would say, who comes to your restaurant? Well, my consumers come, a lot of them come from dinner from the theatre. That's one group of people. Okay, well, let's optimize around that usage point. Okay, well, who else comes? Well, some of them are tourists who have just been to a nearby attraction. Okay, well, let's optimize around that use point because we can create a page on that. It doesn't need to be on the menu. Maybe it's sitting in the footer and so forth. But these are entry points into your business. Okay, well, if you cater for allergies and you're really good about that, we'll start putting detailed allergy information on your website. So it's all these different use points and thinking multi-dimensionally about how your current customers find you, or what customers you want to attract and what entry points, because that's a revenue thing.
Each page starts with a question someone would actually ask AI. Andrew suggests you design these pages to be short and specific. Their job is to show AI exactly when your business is the right recommendation. You can publish them as blog posts so they're easy for AI to crawl and reuse. And that wraps up our week 2. Week 3. All right, now we move into what is really the heart of GEO, generative engine optimization. AI doesn't build confidence from what you claim about yourself, but rather it seems to trust third-party signals. And this is actually much easier for small businesses to address than traditional link building ever was. AI tools don't care nearly as much about backlinks from high-authority sites. They care about how often, how consistently, and in what context your business is talked about across places they already trust. So before I built the next part of this playbook, I asked Andrew Holland a very blunt question. What actually makes a brand authoritative in AI search?
You have to really think about your brand marketing, where you're being mentioned. Some of that can be created using pseudo information. You're basically seeding facts. Experts get quoted, and expert brands get talked about by other people, and businesses that do well get talked about and mentioned by other people. And, publicity drive these things. I describe this as the P.T. Barnum era of SEO. And we are entering the world of the greatest showman. And that's what we've got to be as a brand. How do I become so famous that people think of me first? And once they think of me first, that's great. I get brand search. And then also, how do I become so famous that artificial intelligence chooses me? What do I need to do? How do I build that fame? What I call AI availability. So you have two things: mental availability and AI availability. How do I make AI think about my business in the results? And part of that, by the way, is ranking on Google. Your brand positioning now is everything become the greatest showman. That's the goal. Publicity, fame. I call it fame engineering, and that's what you want to do as a business. Make your clients famous for what they want to be known for.
That's the shift. Authority has shifted from backlinks to fame engineering. First, since AI tools learn about businesses from all different directories and platforms, you want to claim and fill out every single profile that makes sense for your business. Now, doing this manually is painful, which is why most businesses fall out of sync. So to make this painless, I've linked Vendasta's local SEO in the description below. And one of the many features it has is it'll automatically update and sync your business information across the hundreds of online directories AI pulls from. You'll only need to keep your info updated in one place, and the platform handles the rest. Next, you need to identify all the off-source citations you're missing. Most businesses only look in the places they're mentioned, but the real leverage comes from finding where AI expects to see you, but doesn't, which comes down to other pages that mention your competitors, but not you. So I went to Chris Long and asked him the most practical question in the entire process. How do you actually find the sources and citations AI is using when it builds answers in your category?
So that is one of the first things you have to get is an AI tracker like Profound, like an Athena, Peak, Scrunch, whatever. We have our own. So then what you have to do is once you have, let's say, a list of, to keep it simple, 100 different prompts you're tracking, you might say, okay, I'm not getting mentioned for these prompts, right? So, well, what are the citations showing up? Like what actual site sources is ChatGPT listing? We're not in it. So what you can do is you can actually take the list of citations, right? And then you can actually like run it through a tool like Screaming Frog. There's some different regex you can use. I actually posted about that on my LinkedIn, and you can actually insert your brand into that regex and then see, hey, after you perform a crawl, is my brand actually listed in these results, right? In these citations. And if it's not, then you can start to say, hey, affiliate team, hey, PR team, should we be reaching out to them? Is there anything we can do on the own side? But the key point here is you have to know the citations that are influencing ChatGPT, especially for core prompts, and then is your brand actually present in those? And if it's not, that's a high priority citation to go after.
That's how AI shows you the sources it trusts. Lists, roundups, review platforms, industry blogs, local best of pages. If the same sites keep appearing and your brand is missing from them, then those are high opportunity citations to pursue. And getting included in even one of them can ripple across multiple LLMs. If you don't have an AI tracker, here's an easy hack. Pick a query you want to show up for, like best vegan pizza in New York. Now type that into a search engine like Google and search for it like best vegan pizza in New York minus your brand. That minus sign removes you from the results, leaving you with every article, listicle, and publication that already defines the best without you in it. For the rest of week 3, your job is to keep showing up everywhere it matters. Where should brands seed authority signals that AI can pick up on?
On a base level, like your overall brand presence is what determines your eligibility for being mentioned in an LLM. So, how much do people know you in the real world? Like, what is your following on YouTube, et cetera? Your footprint is really like, one of the most important things just to get in the race. But the brands that, understand like things like reputation management and, doing lots of podcasts, having reviews on you, those types of things. Those are the brands that I think are faring the best so far. But also just like your reviews, right? Like what your customers say about you. On Google Business Profiles, on Trustpilot, on G2, et cetera, et cetera. Those are also really important areas where you want to be reflecting, the great work that you're doing to improve your customers' experience and making sure that you're propagating that kind of positive information across the web. Reddit, 100%. So whenever anything is wrong about a company, you can be assured that there's somebody complaining about it on Reddit. And the fact that things can change, right? And companies can adapt and companies can get better. Sometimes some of those outdated narratives are still, influencing people's decision making because the fact is like maybe it was true at a time, but things have now changed, right? So understanding the landscape of social chatter out there that has to do with your brand is extremely important to be aware of. And, it doesn't mean like spamming that same thread with a bunch of links back to your website, but simply like going on to that thread and like explaining that, hey, you know what, we've actually listened to your feedback and we've changed things, and this is like some of the great things that we've worked on to essentially satisfy this contention. And you do that in an information retrieval friendly way, which the LLM is more likely to pick up next time it visits that page. Every touch point that you make publicly online has the potential to influence what the LLM knows about you, how you speak about yourself in these kinds of forums, in terms of how the LLM is going to shape its understanding of you.
Every podcast you appear on, every expert quote, every industry mention, every press release, every review, profile, list, or citation where your business shows up, all of that becomes a machine-readable signal. At the same time, you want to participate where real conversations are already happening on platforms like Reddit and Quora, as well as making sure you're getting as many 5-star reviews as possible, because volume and average rating heavily influence whether AI recommends you. For the rest of the week, continue to purposefully spread authority signals everywhere your buyers already trust, anchored to the exact positioning and problem spaces you defined in weeks 1 and 2. Week 4. Up to this point, you've done the hard part, but you still need to keep monitoring whether and how you're being represented in AI search. After all, it's not a set it and forget it system. If anything, week 4 is about regaining control. Not traffic, not rankings, not impressions, but whether AI is actually saying the right things about your business in the moments that matter. Before I built a plan for this final week, I asked Chris Long a question most businesses never think to ask. If traffic isn't the main KPI anymore, what should businesses actually be measuring in AI search?
Yeah, I think your biggest KPIs shift from traffic. It might have always been a vanity metric, right? Or like you mentioned, with the advent of AI overviews, we're seeing click-through rate go down. In this world, we have to shift to, hey, what about brand mentions, right? Like, is your brand getting mentioned in these AI systems? Brand mentions, I think, are one of the most valuable currencies, because even though people aren't clicking through, they're still searching for products, they're still searching for services. Then are the LLMs recommending your brand is like really the $1 million question that I think a lot of marketers are going to need to start answering.
When we talk about AI search, success is measured in representation, not more traffic or clicks. All through this week, I want you to monitor what AI says about you, catch mistakes early, correct gaps before they cost you deals, spread your digital footprint across the web, and turn this into a repeatable system instead of a one-time project. You don't need to be the loudest brand to win in AI search. You just need to be paying attention.